reason that none of these people know how to quiet this crowd is because they no longer have small children at home. Which I do. And if you have small children, you know, you just say, hey, would you guys back in the back shut up because I can't hear myself think? Now they're quieting the crowd. There's actually just the aura of Andrea White walking up to the podium that caused a hush. Thank you so much, Andrea and Bill, for that introduction. You guys, of course, do as much or more for the city of Houston than anybody, and you're models to everybody who's a citizen of Houston in the way that you go about your civic duty. Sarah and I would also like to thank Vicente for being our MC tonight, even when half the room wasn't listening to what he was saying. We want to thank the HCC trustees, Ginger Blanton, Richard Schechter, Chancellor Spangler, Penny and John Butler, and especially our very good friends who we love very much, Sean and Michelle Taylor, as well as the underwriters, the donors, and all of you who are attending and supporting tonight's event. I thank you for honoring us, but more importantly, thank you for what you all do for our city and its future. It was for me, an interesting film about which my kids would have said after having seen that, you know, blah, 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 what are we going to have for dinner? But the part about El Paso, if I could take the speaker's prerogative, is awesome. I have had the great privilege of being one of over 5,000 members of Team EP for the last 8.5 years. And Bill, if you sold at 25, I think you sold too soon. But it's always gratifying. It's always gratifying to do right by your shareholders if you work for a public company. That's a big part of your job. But to be honest with you, it's more gratifying to know that we did good things as a company. That we honored the duty that we had, not just to our shareholders, but also to a whole group of stakeholders. And I can stand before you tonight and say that the communities, not just Houston, but especially our home Houston, where we live and work, we think are better off today as a result of having been associated with El Paso. As was mentioned before, education is very important to me and Sarah. We're both first-generation college graduates who grew up in Houston and Pearland and attended public schools. Our parents, both sets of our parents, without college educations, worked hard to provide for their families and were largely able to do so. But times have changed, haven't they? From 1998 to 2008, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 10.2 million jobs were created in the United States. You know how many for high schoolers? The 10.2 million were for college graduates. You know how many for high schoolers? 120,000. You know how many jobs in the last 10 years were created for high school dropouts? Well, they went down by 600,000 jobs. Today, a college graduate will make over $1 million more than a high school graduate over their respective careers. At the same time, 44% of high school dropouts are not in the workforce today, and another 15% are unemployed. But these are national figures, you say. I mean, this is the great state of Texas, right? Things have to be different, right? Rafael Alvarez, you're in the audience somewhere. It's different in Texas, isn't it? Mike Feinberg, it's different in Texas than that, isn't it? David Lebron, Todd Litton, I know, is in the audience. Well, you're right. It's much, much worse. Texas is dead last in the union in the percentage of adults with high school diplomas. 37th in percent enrolled in degree-granting institutions. 35th in academic research and development. And 41st in a granting of science and engineering degrees. So the state that holds the city that is the global capital of the energy industry, the most science and engineering intensive industry on the planet, ranks 41st. In Houston, about 15% of our HISD freshmen end up graduating from college. Those numbers drop, by the way, to 7% for Hispanics, 11% for African Americans. So it's actually accurate today to say that the color of your skin and your zip code are largely determinative of your educational and, by extension, your career achievement. Sarah and I believe that's immoral. That's what our God teaches us. But with all of these problems, these seemingly insurmountable problems, how can we come up with answers? Well, we just happened to return from a family mission trip. We built homes for Nicaraguan refugees in Costa Rica. There are 1.1 million Nicaraguan refugees in Costa Rica living in terrible conditions: dirt floors, cardboard walls, no roof. We built 4 houses. 4 out of 1.1 million families. But on the first day of this trip, at a little devotional before we started pounding nails, we were told the story that I know most of you have heard about the little boy who was walking down the beach, and it was low tide, and there were thousands upon thousands of starfish washed up on the beach. And as this boy strolled slowly down the beach, he was picking up a starfish and throwing it in the ocean. Pick up a starfish, throw it in the ocean. And a much wiser, much more worldly adult walked up and said to the little boy, "Why bother? You can't make a difference here. You'll never save even a fraction of these starfish." And then the young boy, never having missed a beat, said as he flung the next starfish into the ocean, "Yeah, but I saved that." I think this is a really exciting time to be in Houston, Texas, one of the great cities on the planet. And Sarah and I believe firmly that we can make our city peerless by being the first major city in the United States to actually solve its education problem. Getting our kids through high school, getting them into college, graduating them from college, Mike Feinberg, and giving them the tools that they need to compete in the 21st century and to have more fulfilling lives. What could be greater than that? Community colleges, of course, have always played a key role in that. But however important Houston Community College was 20 years ago, however critical it was to the social fabric of Houston, it's 10 times more critical today. Why? Because not enough of our kids are graduating from high school to begin with. Because more people need remedial education, even if they graduate from high school, to be prepared for college. Because the cost of higher education continues to skyrocket, making community colleges a more and more relevant way for a kid to get started on their path to a college degree. Because more and more of our community has a native language that isn't English, and community colleges are a wonderful place to go, especially Houston Community College, to get skills necessary to be a vibrant, constructive, productive member of our community. So we are deeply honored that an institution as important to the city of Houston as HCC would honor Sarah and I tonight for the small part we play, and we look forward to working with everybody in this room in the future. Thank you. I could just say one more thing. Don't know if you heard, there's a football game tomorrow. As a lifelong Houstonian, along with many other lifelong suffering Houstonians, I'm so happy that the Texans are going to beat the Bengals